All right, guys, so we are going to continue with trigonometry. So in this case, we're going to be learning something new, which is called the law of sines, okay? So in this lesson, we will use trigonometry to solve oblique triangles, triangles that are not right triangles, okay? So here, the law of sines can be used to solve triangles if we know two angle measures of any side and two side lengths and an angle measure that is not between them. So I know that sounds kind of weird, but I'll kind of give you an idea of what that means. So on here, if you notice, we have sine of A, okay? So big A is the angle. Here is A, that's my angle, okay? And then the little a is the side that is across from angle A, okay? And we have sine of big B. Big B is the angle here, so angle B across the side, which is little b, okay? And then we have C. So here is C, and then the little c is the side across it, okay? So in this case, you have to know two of one of them. So either you know big A and little a, or big B and little b, or big C and little c. You have to know both of those. So if you do not know both of those, then you cannot use the law of sines, okay? We'll learn law of cosines next time, but for right now, we're doing law of sines. So you need to know both of them. So that's kind of what it meant there. So for example, here, it says use the information given to sketch the triangle, find the missing measurements using the law of sines, and round your side lengths to the nearest tenth and the angle measures to the nearest degree. So if you notice here, I know big B and little b. Okay, actually I had it highlighted in purple. So let me go ahead and keep that consistent here. So it does want us to draw the triangle. So I'm going to draw the triangle here. We label it. You know, that's kind of ugly. Sorry. Let me draw it again. We label it. This is A, this is B, and this is C. And so they tell us that B is 30 degrees. They tell us little b is 9, so that would be 9. Then we have big C, which is 45 degrees, which is this angle right here. So I'm going to go ahead and fill it in with 45. And then we are looking for the rest. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and write my sine. So we start off by writing our sine 3 times. Okay, over. We do need to have, whoops, I wrote this too close, equal signs in each one. Okay, so we have sine of big A. We don't know big A, so it's going to stay as big A, and we do not know little a, so it's going to stay as little a. Okay, so that's what we're going to have to find. That's what we're looking for. So if you notice here, we do have big A and little a is what we're looking for. Then the next one, we have big B and little b. Okay, so we know that big B is 30 degrees because that's what they gave us, and we know little b is 9. And the last sign is for C, so we have big C and little c, okay? Big C we know is 45, little c we don't know, that's what we're looking for, so I'm going to leave it as little c. Okay, so here, as you can see, they do want us to find little c as well. So I'm going to start off by looking at this little section right here, okay? So I am going to cross multiply these. Okay, so I get C times sine of 30 degrees equals 9 times sine of 45. Okay, so once I do that, we're actually looking for little c. So to solve for little c, I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by sine of 30 to get this little c by itself. Okay, so this cancels out and we get little c equals, and then I am going to put all this in my calculator. So on the top, I have 9. Oh, wait. I'm going to put parentheses so that I can put everything on top. So 9 times sine of 45. I'm going to close parentheses twice. Okay, one to enclose the 45, and then another time to close the top part, because that's what's going to go on top of the fraction, divided by. And then on the bottom of the fraction, we're going to do sine of 30. Oh, whoops, let me delete one of those. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. That gives me 9 in the square root of 2. I like how it gave me a square root, but it gives me 12.72. So remember this one, they do want us to round to the nearest tenth. So I'm going to put 12.7. Okay. Now we are going to have to find either big A or little a first, but in this case, I already know two angles of my triangle, the 30 and the 45. So we need to go back to the rule that we learned that the three angles of a triangle should add up to 180. So that one's going to be pretty simple to find. So we're going to do 180 minus 45 minus 30. So I'm going to do it here on my calculator. 180 minus 45 minus 30. And that gives me 105. So that means angle A is 105. Okay. So here, instead of A, sorry, I lost my train of thought. So instead of this, I'm going to put 105. Okay. So now we're going to take these two and we're going to cross multiply them. Okay. So I'm going to get 9 times sine of 105 equals 8 times sine of 30. I'm running out of space. 8 times sine of 30. Okay. So remember, we are solving for A. So in order for us to solve for A, I'm going to have to get rid of the sine of 30, and we're going to do so by dividing. So I kind of go over this other problem. I'm sorry about the messiness, guys, but it is what it is. So this cancels out, and this is equal to my A. I'm going to go ahead and put that part in my calculator. So we're going to do 9, parentheses, 9. Isn't the print there? 9 times sine of 30. The sine didn't come out. Sine of 30. And then divided by on the bottom. Oh, it was sine of 105. Divided by sine of 30. Sorry guys, my brain is so scatterbrained right now. Let me go ahead and move up here. The top part was sine of 105. Enter. So then it gives me this weird answer, but it does estimate it for me, and it's 7.38, which would round to 17.4. So then for little a, I can go ahead and put 17.4. And what do you know? That was the last part. Okay, so let's go ahead and try this again. They want us to draw a picture. So here they give us angle A, angle B, and little c. So let me draw a picture so you can kind of understand what those rules were that they were telling us about in the beginning. So we have A, B, and C. So big A is 40. Big B is 58. We don't know what big C is, but we do know little c is 25, which is across from big C. So this side is 25. So as you can see, this side is in between the two angles of 40 and the 58. So remember how this sounded kind of weird? Two side lengths and an angle measure that is not between them, or two angle measures and any side length. Oh, it could be any. Sorry about that. So that's what we got here. So here we do have big A. We don't know what little a is. Okay, we have big B, but we don't know what little b is. They didn't give us big C, but that one's easy to find because remember, if we know what the two other angles are, then we can find the third angle by subtracting from 180. And they do give us a little c. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick just because that's super simple. It's just adding and subtracting. So 180 minus the 48 minus the 58, and that's going to give me the measure of angle C. So 180 minus the 40 minus the 58 gives me 82. And then degrees. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and set up my sine functions like I did on the previous problem. So we write sine 3 times. So sine. Oh, I'm not going to leave a whole lot of space. And sine. Okay, so the first one is for A. So we know big A is 40. But we don't know what little a is. That's what we're looking for. Okay, and we have the one for big B, which in this case, big B we know is 58. And then little b, we don't know what it is. So we just put a little b there. And then last we have the space for big C. We said big C was 82. That's what we figured out. And little c is 25. So big C is 82. Alrighty. So then we go ahead and look at it. And so I know big C and little c. I know both of those. So that's what we're going to have to use. So we're going to go ahead and look at these two first. Okay. And so when I look at those two first, I'm going to go ahead and cross multiply to solve for little b. So we have 25 times sine of 58, okay, equals b times sine of 82. We would run out of space. So let me go ahead and zoom in. So in order for me to solve for b, I need to get rid of the sine of 82. So since they're multiplying, we're going to go ahead and do the opposite and divide. I'm going to divide this by sine of 82. This cancels and we're just left with b. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and enter all of that in my calculator. So we have 25 times sine of 58, close parentheses. And we're going to divide that by sine of 82. Enter, that gives me 21.4. So 21.4. Okay, so this is equal to 21.4. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to kind of have to ignore this little section. Okay, now we're going to find little a. So we're going to ignore this section. Okay, I know that makes it messy, but we're going to ignore that section. And now we're going to cross multiply the a times the sine of 82 and the 25 times the sine of 40. So it's going to be 25 times sine of 40 equals, oh, I hate this, that I write too big, or there's never enough space. I'm going to write it right here. 25 times sine of 40 equals, and then we multiply the a times the sine of 82. Okay, so let me go ahead and zoom in here. So we are solving for a, so to get rid of the sine of 82, I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by sine of 82. I'm going to take all of this and divide by sine of 82. This cancels, and we have little a here, and I'm going to go ahead and put this on my calculator. So we have 25 on the top, so 25 times sine of 40. What is that? What happened? Oh my god. It's not letting me press the 0. Okay, I'm just going to put this in my handheld calculator because I don't know what's going on with my calculator here. So we have 25 times sine of 40 divided by, we're dividing by sine of 82. I hit enter, and that gives me 16.22. So 16.2. So here, well, it's actually the little part that I needed to find, 16.2. All right, let's go on to the next one. So we have, okay, so our next problem here, we have big F, little f, h, and we want to find g, h, and g, little g. So when we do this, I'm going to go ahead and draw my triangle here. I'm going to draw it small off to the side so that we have space. So this is F and G and H. Okay, alphabetical order. Okay, so I know this is going to be a little bit different. So here for F, we're used to A, B, and C, but we have F, G, and H. So F, we have big F, so then that means that little f is directly across from it. So we do know that big big F is 110 degrees, and little f is 28. Whoops. Okay, there you go. And then we have, let me see, little h. So FG, we don't know anything about G. We don't know the angle. We don't know the side. And then we have big H. We don't know what big H is, but we do know little h, which is this side across of it, is 12. Okay, and so we're in charge of doing the rest. So just like the previous problems, we write sine 3 times. So sine, and sine. Okay, and so the first one, sine of f. We know f is 110 degrees, and we know little f is 28. So we go in alphabetical order. So we did f. The next one is g. So big G we don't know, and we also do not know little g. Okay, and then we have H. Big H, we don't know what that is, and then little h, we do know what that is. That is 12. Okay, so then we use the one that we know both of. So we know both big F and little f, so we know this one, and then big G and little g, we don't know both of those. So then in order for us to figure this one out, we have to use the one that we're only missing one variable. So in this case, we're missing big H, but we have little h. So we're going to have to use those two. So just like the previous problem where we had to ignore this little section for now, and then we're going to go ahead and cross multiply these. So we're going to do 110 times sine of 110 times 12 and 28 times sine of h. So I'm going to write it here to the bottom. 12 times sine of 110 equals 28 times sine of h. Okay, so this one, because we're looking for the angle, this is going to require a little bit more work. I'm going to go ahead and first divide both sides by the 28 to solve for sine of h. Okay, so then it cancels and we get sine of h equals the 12 times the sine of 110 divided by 28. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in my calculator real quick. So I have 12 times sine of 110. And then we're going to divide that by 28. And that gives me 0.40. So 0.40 equals sine of h. Now, because we're looking for h, we're going to go ahead and use the inverse sign. By using the inverse sign, that kind of negates this part, so it cancels that out. And then if I use the inverse sign here on my 0.40, that will give me my angle h. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and use inverse sine, and I'm just going to click answer so that it plugs in that answer that I got there. It doesn't just only plug in the 0.40, but it plugs in all the numbers after that. So 0.4027254, and then so on. It keeps going, which is a more accurate answer. So this is going to be 23.74. If we're rounding to the nearest degree, this would actually round to 24 degrees. So that means that angle h is equal to 24 degrees. I'm going to go ahead and fill that in here, 24 degrees. And then since we know angle h is 24, I'm going to go ahead and erase this and fill that in with a 24. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and also erase this part that I had scratched out. Okay, now that we know two angles of the triangle, we can actually find angle G by taking the 180, subtracting the 110, and also subtracting the 24. So 180 minus 110 minus 24. Oh, whoops. That gives me 46. Okay, so here instead of G, I'm going to go ahead and fill that in with the 46. Okay, and now it doesn't matter which one we use, whether we use the sine of 110 over 28 or we use the sine of 24 over 12. It doesn't matter. You pick whichever one. I'm going to go ahead and pick these two together to cross multiply. So I'm going to do 12 times sine of 46 equals g times sine of 24. Okay. Let me go ahead and zoom in here. I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by sine of 24. Divide this by sine of 24. And then I'm going to go ahead and put all of that in my calculator the way I see it. So 12 times sine of 46 divided, see, this is exactly why I put all the parentheses here. So that doesn't happen. Divided by sine of 24. Enter, that gives me 21.22. So this part cancels, and then this gives me 21.2 is equal to g. So little g is going to give us 21.2. All right. So that one we already completely solved. So let's go ahead and try the next one. So this one we have angle T, we have little t, little u, and then we have angle u and angle v, and little v that we need to find, okay? So here we're going to put this in alphabetical order. So we have T, U, and V. Just like we had A, B, and C, we have T, U, and V. So we have our triangle. Okay, T, U, V. Now they do give us a T is 52. They give us little t, which is 23. They give us little u, which is 15, and then that's all they give us. Okay, so then I'm going to go ahead and write my sign 3 times. So 1, 2, and 3 equals. Okay, so I'm just setting all of this up. So then T is the first letter. So here I have sign of big T. Big T is 52 and little t is 23. Okay. And then the next letter going in alphabetical order would be U. So U here is big U, we don't know, so I'm just going to leave it as big U. But little u, we do know is 15. Okay. So 1, 5. And then next we have, where to use this one? Oops. Next we have V. We don't know what big V is, and we don't know what little v is either. So V, and then I'll just do a little v there. So then from there, we're going to go ahead and figure out which one we're going to use. Now, because we know big T and little t, that means that we're going to have to use this one first. And then since this one is only missing one variable, it's just missing the u, that means we have to start with these two. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and cross multiply. I get 15 times sine of 52 divided by 23 equals, whoops, I think I may have skipped a step. So 15 times sine of 52, and then the sine of u on the top times the 23. So we're cross multiplying. All right, we can end up in the same spot, but to solve for u, we first need to get rid of this 23 by dividing. So we divide by 23, this cancels. So we get 15 times sine of 52 divided by 23 equals sine of u. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put that in my calculator. So I have 15 times sine of 52. And we're dividing that by 23. And I press enter and it gives me 0.51. So 0.51 equals sine of u. Now remember, because we're looking for the angle that's with the sine, we do have to use the inverse sine. So I'm going to go ahead and use the inverse sine of 0.51. And then when I use the inverse sine, because remember how you do, when you do to one side, you got to do to the other side. That kind of negates the other side. So you just end up with your angle u. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in my calculator. So I'm going to use my inverse sine. So shift inverse sine. And then I'm going to go ahead and plug in the answer. Enter. And that gives me 30.92, which would round to 31 degrees. Okay, so that's my U. So here, my U is 31 degrees. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and erase that here. And I'm going to fill that in with the 31 because we already figured that out. Okay, so now we can go ahead and find sine of V, because if we already know two angles of the triangle, we can find the third angle by subtracting those from only V. So we're going to subtract the 31, and we're also going to subtract the 52. So I'm going to plug that in my calculator. 180 minus the 31 minus the 52. Enter. That gives me 97. So 97. We go ahead and erase that here. So 97. And so I have these two. I go ahead and cross multiply these. Okay. So I have V times sine of 31 equals, and then I multiply 15 times sine of 97. Go ahead and zoom in on that. And so I'm looking for V, so I need to cancel it out, and I need to cancel out the sine of 31. Okay, so I divide both sides by sine of 31. This cancels, and I'm just left with V. I'm going to go ahead and plug that in my calculator. So 15 times, I meant to press times, and I pressed divided by sine of 97, and then close parentheses. And then we're going to divide that by sine of 31. Go ahead and press enter, and that gives me 28.9. 28.9. And that's it. So thank you guys. If you guys have any questions, you can leave below in the comments, or you guys can go ahead and ask your teachers. Thank you guys. Bye.